So very good evening to all our viewers and fellow educators. My name is Sudhir Kumar, Ambassador with Global Education and Training Institute. And today we are going to discuss about the inclusions of children with special needs in a mainstream school. And the guest for today is Miss Kanupriya. She is a special educator at autism and learning disabilities with the mainstream school in New Delhi. She has been working in this field for quite a while now, and she wants to share her views on this topic. So please give a warm welcome to Ms. Kanupriya on our session today. So very welcome, ma'am. How are you doing?
Thank you, Sudhir sir. It is really nice to have been sharing this platform with you. Thank you so much, GETI, for giving me this opportunity, and of course, the Training Institute as well. Thank you so much. I'm honored. I hope the session is
Our
going to
pleasure,
be
ma'am.
pleasant
So
as the other sessions have been. Yeah, please.
definitely, ma'am, definitely. So, means if we are talking about the inclusions of the kids with the special need, so according to you, what is inclusion and how do you define it? And apart from the theories we have learned so far, what are your opinions about it?
Mr. Sudhir, I think I would like to go with a question to the audience. And since this session is going to be all about children with special needs, I have a few things that run into my mind. And I always begin by asking few questions to everybody who either hears me out or, they attend my workshops. So here this goes for all of them. There might be an instance that you must have ever found a child different from other people or other students in a group. So did you see a child in trouble while performing in a group? What would you have felt in in an everyday affair of school life? That child faces the same kind of difficulty while everybody else seems to be doing that work very, very easily. What kind of support you think that you could help the child as a teacher, and what would you need to keep trying? I think the answer of all these questions. Why did I ask these questions? Is in order to make everybody shirk a few work. As a mainstream teacher, there are a few things that they think, as in they shouldn't be doing it in a class. So the answer to all these questions, can easily direct us towards the path of introspection. Which is actually ignored so far in our profession, and it's the service and not profession. So archaeological evidences, they nowadays they tell that only a profession as a professional, and we just forget the most important aspect, that is service. It says that inclusion is in the form of adaptive toys. In the ancient times, we have had few inclusion and accessible things going on. In Gurukul system, they were followed, and the system were sensitive to the distinguished cultural, social, and economic needs of the students and their families. बात जो मैं यहाँ करना चाह रही हूँ वो ये है बेसिकली कि इतने टाइम से हम लोग ऑलरेडी इतनी सारी चीजों को इंक्लूड करते आ रहे थे, तो अब इंक्लूजन में प्रॉब्लम कहाँ आ गई सडनली? व्हाई देयर इज अ क्वेश्चन ऑफ टॉकिंग अबाउट इंक्लूजन? वी थिंक दैट देयर इज एन अर्जेंट नीड टू टॉक अबाउट inclusion, whereas we forget that always inclusion always existed. In my view, basically inclusion is a basically procedure. It's a practice, and it begins, the word itself says I for inclusive. That means it begins with I. It begins with the person who thinks about it. The fact is that the children with disabilities, they come from a very large group of the whole population, and out of which it actually, the schemes that will be talking about, they provide an opportunity for all the children with disabilities, especially when we talk about children with special needs in mainstream schools. We basically categorize it into two components, and the first happens to be the student oriented component, and the other components, they relate to the infrastructure, teacher awareness program, and the gentry of students has to be sensitized. So we'll talk about it further as we move on towards it.
Thank you so much for the clarification, and definitely, under these were some relevant point that since long it was there in the system, but yeah, there was a gap due to which that actually created a long boundary or a gap between the students, right? So we have to work on mending that gap, and I'm sure that educators like you are working very well towards it. So, my next question from you, ma'am, is that since you work in an inclusive school setup, so what are the current challenges and issues of the inclusive education, which you know, as an educator or as a team, you face?
Yeah, I'll just highlight the issues as well. It's a very amazing question, I must say. Major challenges and issues that usually an educator faces, especially for children with special needs, both at primary and secondary levels, is education is actually in respect of the state and the UTs. Like, a lack of resource teachers and therapists. You can't be having therapists in a mainstream classroom. This is just a niche, just a cliche. It's not that one can't have these therapists in a school setting. There are no certain norms that they can't abide by these people. Usually the best inclusive schools have all the therapists and all the rehab professionals in under one roof. So what I'm trying to convey is there is a lack of resource teachers and therapists in a mainstream classroom or school. There's a lot of lack of trained teachers in on all disabilities. When I say lack of trained teachers on all disabilities, it's about few diploma holders or few teachers who are trained, who do their B.Ed, they pursue their studies. They are trained only for particular disability. For example, when you started giving my introduction, you said Kanukri is trained for autism, neurological impairments, and learning disabilities. So, what about other aspects? What about other children? If they come to us, are we well equipped? Or are we good enough to be teaching children who are visually impaired? Are we good enough to take up students who are deaf blind? Are we trained enough to take students belonging to the other disability groups? So this is a lack of trained teachers on all the disabilities. They're not inclusively trained. Even if they're trained, they're not inclusively trained so that they're good enough to be taking up any sort of child with any sort of disability together. Next, then we come up to the gap between the students passing out of the elementary classes and enrolling in the secondary schools. This is basically the child tracking system, which actually needs to be developed. We hardly keep a track. Most of the dropouts happen to be coming, in the secondary level. They join in the primary level, but they by the time they come to the secondary levels, children with special needs, they tend to leave inclusive schools and they fail to get admitted in the mainstream classroom setup, as they think that they might switch to integrated schooling system or the special schools. I'll also just brief out what integration basically means. When we talk about special school setups and integration, there are three kinds of schools. For all the viewers who must be listening to us, we have three kinds of schools. One happens to be the special school, where under one roof there are, there's a set of all rehabilitation therapists and rehab professionals, and one gives a child-centered therapeutic education. The therapies are given, the education is imparted according to the needs and demands of the child. And when we come to integrated school setup, there the children are trained to go for a mainstream school setup, जिसको हम inclusive school setup भी कहते हैं. तो यहाँ पर बच्चों को कैसे train किया जाता है? What I'm trying to tell you is the three kinds of school setups are there: special, integrated, and inclusive. So we are talking about the mainstream school, normal schools which are supposed to be turning inclusive in nearby near future, as the NEP has also come, and no school can ever deny admission to any student with special needs. This provision has been there, it exists, but as we say, implementation is always a challenge for all of us. So parents always have to take a rough and tough stand. Now we move further. The another current challenge that we face, during the issues that we face in the inclusive education, happens to be low enrollment of children with special needs, especially girls. When I say girls, so it is very much evident that the differently abled girls, they do not get admitted to the school. It's been really long since I've been working and associated to children with special needs, and I have mostly dealt with boys in comparison to girls. I've been less than there have been less number of girls that I've ever dealt with, and I think the biggest reason is they're not even sent to school. So since they're not even reaching the school doors, how will they access the education, or how will they access the education or how will they and other few provisions that we talk about. Let's say somebody has to travel, and the allowance. For example, a child with autism has to travel in an airplane. They have to travel across another state, and there has been a provision that they can inform the airport authorities beforehand, especially when we have children with severe disabilities or disorders. People, they don't accept the way they are. They don't accept the situation that they are in. They don't accept the situation that they are in.
I think that due to some technical reason, she has dropped from the session. Just give us a minute, and let us start the session.
We have specialists and therapists in the state. We have slow development of inclusive model schools, and barrier-free environment are not even appropriate as per the norms. When we say barrier-free environment, we also mean that the area in which the child lives or is studying or is going visiting a school, it has to be accessible. Now you must be visiting all these malls these days. They're all accessible. They have toilets accessible. Everything is quite accessible. What about schools? Schools are not that accessible. I think these are few things that needs to this needs to be taken good care about. Last 2 points I would like to mention. It is the non-representation of children with special needs, parents and special teachers in the departments. They feel very lack of a sufficient well-equipped resource rooms. Since they don't have their own space to create this, they feel redundant. They feel very insufficient in their workplace, and this is how most of the teachers don't create the way they want to. So this is basically the an outlook, according to me, the current challenges and the problems and solutions. Definitely, I've shared with you all how we can go about it.
Hello, Kanpriyaji, can you hear us?
Sudhir sir.
Hello, yeah, can you hear us? Hello,
Yeah,
yes,
am I
Kanupriya, we
audible?
can see you. Yes, now you're audible and we can see
I
you
think there is
now.
some technical issue.
Yes, I think that internet or some issues were there from your end. Again, the screen has been freezing for you. Hello.
Yeah. You're audible. I am audible too.
Yes, you are audible, but the screen getting freeze in between.
Okay, I'm
while
so
you were
sorry for
speaking.
that. Maybe some technical issue.
It's okay. It's okay. It happens, right? We are in the online setting, and this is the major challenge. Means I would like to tell my audience that online schooling, right? The lack of stable internet connection, and so we were discussing about in the mainstream and what the kind of issues we were telling us about the lack of faculty members and lack of awareness in the mainstream, facilities and in the mainstream places, right? So yeah, please go ahead. You were talking about the airports.
Yeah, I was talking about the airport authorities that even when they the parents of children with special needs, when they tell even if they inform the authorities, they make sure that the child is not interfered while traveling. But apart from all this, there are certain times when people do not accept the children, and the stimming, when there's a lot of behavioral issue that is being bothered by people rather than the child who possesses it. Why am I saying it? Because since we deal with the children with special needs, and especially the neurotypical ones, no offenses to anybody, there are a few things that they do or they incur. That is, they're echolalic. They produce few sounds immediately. They might. I can't say that they disturb others. We are aware of the thing that they possess, since we're already dealing with them, so we don't get disturbed. But other people, they might get disturbed with it, so they feel very jittery, and they don't feel comfortable in traveling with people with special needs. So this is one of the most biggest hurdle we have seen so far. And secondly, I told that children with disabilities or children with special needs, when they visit or go to park and they're not even called for birthday parties, this is something which has been happening since really long. But nowadays the time is changing, and we teachers, we try our best to create an inclusive environment. So we try our level best to have this kind of setting, social setting, where they are treated equally. And we also, since we accept them the way they are, definitely the society too will accept them the way they are. So these are, unmute yourself. Your voice is not audible to us.
Hello.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Is it audible now, ma'am?
Yeah, perfect, perfect.
On your point, I was saying that yes, somehow that slowly and gradually, due to lack of that awareness campaigns which has been running across the internet, due to the educators like you, and due to the because see, we have huge influence of social media these days, right? So we have been
Definitely.
seeing videos. Earlier, we were not aware, and in the small societies, in the small areas, those were as when even called as the curse from the god. But somehow
Yeah.
now we have got the political leadership who actually termed it as a divyang, or means so that somehow that actually gives the respect to such kind of people. Moreover, we are facilitating them, we are encouraging them to participate, and to getting them in the mainstream policies, mainstream facilities, like as you have mentioned, that in the sports, in the Olympics, and the cricket and every other sports, like they are actually winning it. Once
Yeah.
they have been participating in those sports, they are actually proving themselves that yes, they are actually worth investing, right? So we are seeing a huge change, and I'm sure that with the educators like you, with a lot of awareness and a lot of facilities, and we are going to achieve much more in upcoming years. So
Yeah,
and
definitely.
one more thing, because I'm a teacher's trainer myself, so I often conduct workshops in the school, not in the specialist school. So the teachers' planning is the most crucial part, wherein they prepare the lesson plans and everything. So in terms, well, when I talk about you people, right? So how you do your homework once, before you go to the school, and interacting with your kids. So because each one is different from each other, right? So how
Yeah.
you do your preparation, and how you go next day and introduce the topics and interact with them.
So
I'm
these
sure
are
this is one of the
unmute by
crucial
yourself.
question
Yeah.
I'm asking.
Yeah, definitely. I agree to your point. You have an amazing question. And since this is one of the important and crucial part of our work profile, I'd like to take a few more minutes out of this. I would like to begin with a quotation that I usually tell my students when I tell them, who am I? I tell them like this that, hi everybody, I am Kanupriya and I happen to be a special educator. When I mention this word special, this in itself means that I'm somehow different from all the other educators. And I think this is how I represent the gentry of special educators. Special educators, they're all different from the mainstream teachers. They need to have lot of effort. They make a lot of effort while they plan. And when it comes to inclusive education, the goal of inclusive education at all the levels, be it pre-primary, primary, or secondary, it is always to reduce the gap in the enrollment, to reduce the gap in the retention, completion rate, and achievement levels of the child in respect to the gender and socially advantaged groups. So these are I would also like to mention when we say that we are talking about inclusion, it just does not limitize our approach towards children with special needs. It has also to do with children with different needs. We can also talk about students with mental illness. We can also talk about students who have had, joined the school after severe issues or severe troubles, or who have had long duration of holidays. They were not keeping well. And not last but least, I think we also talk about students who are trans. So everybody needs to understand the definition of inclusion. And since you have asked the most important part of my work profile, the planning, how we go about it, so I would like to bring this to your notice that the inclusion of children with special needs has to be seen in terms of physical access, social access, and quality of access. I'd like to repeat this that I divide my work into three categories. One is physical access, social access, and the quality of access. When I say physical access, under this we talk about identification and mapping of children with special needs and assessment. So, as per the guidelines and the guidelines that are given according to the population that we cater to, the points towards the assessment of children with special needs is an intensive identification which must be given importance at a very beginning of every school special educator. And since we are working with it, it must include the training of surveyors, enumerators, and other government functionaries at every level. And how do we identify it? Like through teachers, we talk to them, we talk to the NGOs, we talk to the social welfare departments, we prepare this school readiness program and medical assessment camps. Since I've shared all of this, we not just only focus on the school teachers to be sensitized. We also focus on the school other staff members, the administrators, helpers, ground staff, and most importantly, the gentry of students, the group of students who are the upcoming youth of the nation. Since we are developing and working on this group of students, they will outshine and come out as sensitized people in the society. And that this is how we go about it, creating that physical access so that anybody who's with them is able to reach out to them in a very kind and humble manner, along with humility. Second point is assessment of children with special needs. This is done by rehab professionals. The assessment professional team may include like interdisciplinary expert team of special educators. We have clinical psychologists, we have therapists, we have doctors, and any other professional support based on the students' needs to ensure the quality of assessment. This assessment is also done to identify the educational need of child with special needs. And since we get a psychometric test report in our hand, we easily go, it's just like that. If I tell you that there's a child who has fever, but you're unaware that किस तरीके का fever है. So उसको viral fever है या chicken pox का fever है, किस तरीके का fever है. So since this report comes in our hand, which is called the psychometric test report, or we also say psychological report, this comes in our hand and we are all set to go to plan their work. And since I said we plan their work, I'll like to tell all the educators and listen our viewers and listeners, I'll tell you, all the mainstream teachers, they prepare a report card, whereas special educators have to work upon a report card which is named as IEP, that is individualized education plan, or you may say program as well. We plan it according to each child individual needs and capabilities. We never prepare it in a group setting, though our target is always to include them in a classroom setting. But we ensure that whatever needs are there of the child, belonging to the child, need of the child, we ensure that it is done. And we include all those areas, be it social skills, be it communication skills, in academics, and what about sports. So we include all the areas and we work about it. Then we have there's the second point, third point, sorry, aids and appliances. When we talk about this, we have this Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, and State Welfare Department, and national institutions, and we also have voluntary NGOs also who help us out, like Alimco. And through these organizations, we keep ourselves equipped with resources a lot, aids and appliances. Like, let's say if somebody, any student requires hearing aids, so we have departments that we can reach out to. They also get a lot of benefits out of it, and the government is quite supportive. But I think this is how we call ourselves key workers. Few parents are also unaware of the fact that from where, which place they can get the access. So we are the ones, the key workers. Why do we call ourselves key workers? We bridge the gap between the parent and the government. And this is how we go about it, that they are made aware, and they can certainly go to that place and get themselves equipped. Then we come to the removal of the architectural barriers. When we talk about it, it's like subsuming the IEDSS and RMSS schemes that usually they're included in the civil work to promote inclusion of children with special needs. And several efforts, you are aware, they've been made, but we actually talk about ramps. We sensitize our administration department, and we tell them that few certain things have to be done on regular basis. They have to be checked out, like accessible classroom, the ramps are accessible or not, playgrounds, the laboratories, and washrooms. They have to be designed in such an innovative and inclusive manner that the children, they are able to access it in a form that they're barrier free for them. Then we come to the curriculum. Since I'm a globally certified trainer, I think I've read most of the curriculums. But for children with special needs, the parents, parents opt a curriculum named as NIOS. Why National Institute of Open Schooling, and why not a mainstream schooling? Uh, since the challenges are overpowering, and few parents, they think that the child might not be able to perform at par. They are below par in CBSE. So, thanks to the NEP 2020, this is definitely going to bring a huge change. I'll talk about NIOS. Most of the students with children with special needs, they opt NIOS. Why is that? So I'm going to tell you. There are few provisions that the NIOS department give. They give it while students, they pursue their open schooling. First is the fee concession to the extent of almost approximately 50% for children with special needs. Second is the distance learner is always registered for a period of, let's say, about 5 years, in which a candidate gets approximately 9 chances to appear in a given course or a program. So when a child is given 9 chances to appear in a particular program, why won't they register for such a accessible mode of education? And CWSN can also appear in 1 or 2 subjects at a time as per their preparation. Let's say I have a student and he or she wants to appear for the exam, let's say only for maths and science this year. So they can appear only for 2 exams, and rest of the subjects they can appear in the next semester. So this is how they go about it. They're very, very flexible, and since this is the major reason, due to their flexibility, most of these students CWSN, they try and they opt for this course, this sort of curriculum. Then we have another benefit of NIOS, that is study centers. They're taken as examination. So what I mean is, the place where the child is studying, the same center will be the examination center as well. They're so inclusive. Why? Because the educators have already, they've built their very good rapport, and since they're already in touch with the student, and they know what sort of behaviors they might possess, because of that they're able to build a very amazing rapport, and the child is also comfortable with the same set of educators. So the board, NMS board, they ensure that the study center is the examination center itself. Then we have general and specific relaxations, like disability wise during examination, like for children with learning difficulty, they also allow, they can type also, they can type their exam, and they can use calculators as well, calculus, during their maths exam. So there are few flexibilities which are given by this board. Then we have, the best part is there is no age limit for the admission in the NIOS program. So since I've been talking about the curriculum of children with special needs, NIOS has also, this has developed educational material for teaching children with special needs in their own homes. They need not go to school. It again, every coin has two sides. So since I'm sharing the pros of NIOS curriculum, it also has its cons. And I think to promote inclusion, we need to understand that if the child is homeschooled or sent to school, and by any chance or any means, the child has to be prepared for inclusion. Now we come to the quality access of children with special needs. So since I talk about the quality access, it is divided into three groups. One is the support service, second is the curriculum adaptation, and the third is your favorite part, that is teacher training. And that's my favorite part too. Because teacher training is something, it never ends, and learning is a lifelong process, and all of us are learners. So there's a wide range of approaches, of options, and strategies we're going to be talking about, which may be adopted for the education of CWSN and the type of education we impart in the mainstream school setup. So very first we go about is support services. There's a core essential service which is required to access, and it has to be retained. This service category actually is very specific and is available as per the needs of the child, which includes availability and upgrading of the aids of augmentative and alternative communication tools, for example, audio visuals, communication board, computer access. The child is basically trained. So support services basically क्या है कि बच्चे को जो भी चीज स्कूल में चाहिए वो उसको मिलना चाहिए. It has to be there, it has to exist, and it has to be reached by the child in any form. And then we come to the curriculum adaptation. As I said, again, NEP would be mentioned. There is a lot of flexibility that has come up in NEP now. And since we were facing a lot of issues, I think this is going to break the barrier. And it has to be, we usually suggest children that they can opt subjects of their own choice. Whichsoever subject they think they're not able to perform, or they're performing below par, they can actually adapt the curriculum in such a way that no matter what the scores are, they can opt for any subject they're comfortable with. So under curricular adaptation, when we talk about this, we should be thinking of an important part of all the teacher training programs in inclusive education, that it is vital. Adaptation of the curriculum is always carried out to meet the individual needs of child with special abilities. And then we come to the teacher training part. It is basically an investment in teacher training. I call it key to success of education of CWSN, because both the pre-service and in-service training needs to be given special attention to build capacity of teachers of, for addressing any sort of child in a classroom, mainstream classroom setup. Every time a special educator can't be there, and since NCTE deals with general education courses, which has an optional paper on special education, so RCI comes in. It runs the special education courses which focuses on specific disabilities. What is RCI? It is Rehabilitation Council of India, and it is an institutional body which organizes or hosts special education courses for everybody. And this is the board where all the special educators appear. And last but not the least is the resource support, as I always mentioned. The academic labs have to be there, low vision labs. We can't be creating labs all across, but definitely we can have few provisions like I have in my school. We have yellow stripes on the staircase so that any child with low vision is able to come across that it's a staircase, and he or she is made aware of. And we also have buddies and friends. Let's say the immediate buddy is absent, so the another set of student or group of two people or three students, they're trained in such a way that they'll be assisting the child. And since we're talking about inclusion, the child himself or herself will also be trained to go about independently. Then we come to curricular access. Since NEP also includes curricular access, and it will be including the vocational education. in the school itself. This is going to help a lot of children with special needs, because they are very good when it comes to special ability and need, and for that they need appropriate infrastructure and availability of resource. And independent living is the ultimate goal of education for all the children with difficulties. I think this is how we plan things under few subheads I have discussed with you so far. There we also have few national institutes which work in the same field. I would like to highlight, like we say, National Institute of Occupational Health, that is NIOH. Then we have National Institute of Mental Health, uh, NIMH, and then we have Ali Awarjung National Institute of Handicap. The names have been the names have been changed recently. So thanks to our Prime Minister for giving us an opportunity that we have a sensitized approach toward all the children and people with disabilities, and they're no more called Viklang. They're definitely called Divyang Jan.
Hello.
Yeah, Sudhi sir, am I audible?
Hello. Yes, you are
Hello.
audible. Am I audible to you?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yes.
Hello, Kanupriyaji, can you hear me now? Hello. Hello,
Yeah,
Kanupriyaji.
yeah, Sudhi sir, you're there. Yes.
Okay, yes, I am here.
Hanji,
So,
Hanji.
all right. So, I have been listening to you, and you have actually put across many valid points and a lot of information we have received. I have personally received, and about the categorization, about the inclusions, about the facilities, and the the challenges which we are facing, and the kind of solution government is trying to give. Right, but still,
Yeah.
we have to go far. We have to do a lot of things in order to mend these gaps. These gaps are huge, but yes, we are working towards it. And the main thing which you have mentioned, that the lot creating awareness and teachers training, right? Because training is an investment. Even I also believe
Yeah.
so. So
Yeah.
this investment we need to do, and we need to do it on a very larger scale in order to meet the expectation and in order to raise the standard of the education for these kind of students, right? So again, means that's a
Yeah.
phenomenal session which we had today with you, and it's a lot of information we have received. So my another question would be from you is that what certain solutions would you suggest for the inclusion of children with special need? Means you have also talked about many, but what other means or what other things you would like to suggest to us?
Thank you, Sudhi sir. I think there are innumerable suggestions that I would like to go about, but I think I'd sum up this with two subheads. One happens to be for the awareness of teachers and school administration, where there's a need to bring change in the attitude towards the teaching. Keeping teaching as a profession out of our mind, we should start talking that teaching is not just a profession. We should take teaching as a service to mankind. Secondly, a training session for dealing with CWSN and inclusive education should be organized by each and every school at the very beginning of the new session, and every school authority should take initiative for this purpose. Thirdly, the teachers of normal school must have to read the teaching manuals designed under the SSA. Fourthly, the appointment of special educators and co-teachers as per the requirement of the school should be made extremely mandatory Since we are in a pandemic, I think we, the mental health professionals, the psychologists, the counselors, special educators, we are the ones who should keep the child's mental health. Last but not the least, there's a cumulative record of the students which should be kept, so that if there is any unusual change that comes into our notice, then the history of the child should be very, very helpful in determining the cause. Why did I say this? Because let's say these days there's a lot of laying off of teachers, or to the other educator. There is no briefing about the children in the class, and this is a very, very close knit thing that we mostly face as educators. When we talk about children, the teachers are not much aware about their whereabouts in the class. They simply know that the child is, how the child is performing academically. What about the social performance? What about the emotional performance? What about how they talk to their peer group? So all these things, and especially about the medical history, mental health history and the medical history, they should be taken good care of, so that in case there is any trouble with the child that occurs during the school years, the mental health professional, the medical staff can definitely take care of. The second hand that I would like to highlight is about for the effective teaching in an inclusive classroom. There are two goals that that may be set for effective teaching in inclusive classroom. First is the child with special needs to learn academics, and the second is they need to participate completely in regular classroom. When I say they need to participate effectively, I'll just come on to that point. To achieve the first goal, we are the ones who assist them, and we assist the mainstream teachers as well. The teacher in the mainstream classroom should also use the time efficiently by managing the routines smoothly, and avoiding discipline problems, like planning carefully. And the जिस क्लास में आपने सुना होगा कि जिस क्लास में शोर नहीं होता वहां पे कोई लर्निंग नहीं होती है. Children might not learn better. If the class is noisy, if they're allowed to be a bit noisy, they're allowed to question the teacher, that is where the learning happens. So when we special educators, when we deal with children, be it normal or mainstream children, or be it children with special needs, there's this first thing that we do not get bothered by is noise. So we are always inclusive. We welcome them with a lot of questions, and we are always overpoured with questions, as they're very, very comfortable with us. So secondly, the questions should be asked carefully at the right time. And thirdly, there's a trend of positive feedback to students should be followed. There should be less usage of word no in the statement by the teacher. Last but not the least, an extended practice must be used for children with specific disabilities. In order to attain our second goal of the need for children with special needs, there is a complete participation in the regular classroom, as I mentioned. There are certain teaching strategies like cooperative learning, reciprocal teaching, and a positive behavior support should be used effectively and frequently. This can be done by mixing the children with special needs into groups with students who do not have special needs. So when we do it, we certainly assist them and we sensitize them to do so, and they can definitely perform in a group setting. तो peer tutoring भी हो गया, peer learning भी हो गया, buddy system भी हो गया, teaching भी effective हो गई, and the results are coming very good. The results come out to be outshining. Then we can have, let's say we need to take formative assessments as an effective tool to educate the child with special needs. And how we do this, we do it by assigning the task and projects in cooperative groups, like we do role plays, we do lab works, we do skits. So this is how we go about it. Then we can give students many different ways to show their ability, like writing, talking, organizing. We can have drawing, diagramming, planning, demonstrating, helping our performing. For example, we can have Ferguson and Bodgan's theory we have read so far. They actually tell students to enact whatever comes to your mind and heart. You can come and enact. You can do a role play of a teacher. Do you know how does a teacher teach you? So through this, they indirectly they're learning, and they're actually presenting whatever they have received in so far by the teacher. The classroom setting should be changed in according to the task assigned at particular or different levels, and depending on what the types of disabilities we so far cater in a mainstream classroom setting. Let's say the child is not able to look at the blackboard, So if it is a smart board, we can definitely increase the font size, and through that we can achieve the target. We can help the child in making the visibility clear and good enough for the child. But let's say it is not able to see then we can have effective and efficient use of assistive technologies that can be adopted by the teachers. When I say assistive devices, it could be tablets, it could be visual aids, it could be video clips, and social stories, and it could be something self-created as well. I still can say this fondly. Whenever I enter into a class and I see somebody facing some difficulty, immediately I'm able to build a social story, and this is, I think, how most of the educators go about, and they can develop a social story of their own. And when it comes to them, they, when they narrate it, taking on to their own self, the children also start taking a lot of interest. Then we can also have, like, teachers, they should ensure the use of language and behavior towards these special needs. It should be very, very humble, full of humility, full of kindness. Serving or treating the child, talking to the child, it should be practicing inclusion, because inclusion is a mindset and it's a practice. It comes with practice, and it begins only with you. So these are few solutions that do not require much of the extra effort by the mainstream teachers, but yes, a little effort is always needed. So these were my few suggestions and
Sorry, I
how
just
we go about it.
Thank
thank
you.
you so much for Kanupriya ji for sharing your.
My phone actually, the battery got dried up, so I have turned back from the system now. So you might not be able to see my face, but yes, I have heard all the things you have mentioned, and it was quite, the level of knowledge was quite profound, and I'm sure that our viewers and other parents, because the principals and the directors, they also are parents, and they might have been facing such kind of issues, and they must have seen such kind of thing around themselves. So yes,
Yeah,
this session would be gonna quite helpful for most of the people, and we would definitely would love to talk with you again on the same topic with some more insights. And it's been a lovely talking to you, and definitely we'll work together, and definitely we'll assist the people with the special needs. And those are very magical kids.
yeah,
Means
definitely.
I got a chance once to meet with them when I was in Amar Jyoti School, Delhi, and the kind of energy and the enthusiasm they have,
Okay.
and the kind of you know the level of participation they have. So that actually impressed me a lot, and I really wanted to do something for them at that point of time. So, would- it was quite a wonderful session with you, and I'm definitely gonna share this with lot many people around myself, because I know a lot many educators and psychologists who actually deals with such kind of issues with them on a regular basis. But yes, the kind of information you have given to us, and we have received from you, so this is quite
Glad
unique
to hear
and
that.
very fruitful. So yes, with this note, we have to leave this session. And see, it's amazing that we have spent 50 minutes with you, and I have not even bored for a second.
Yeah,
Right. So,
definitely. It was really a good session.
thank you so much, Kanupriya, for your time today, and would definitely love to hear from you again. So before we leave for the day, any last message for our viewers or the kids who will be watching this video?
Thank you.
Hello, am I audible to you, Kanupriya?
Yes, yes, you are.
Yeah. So before we leave for the day, any last message you would like to give to our viewers?
You're not audible, Mr. Sudhir. You're not audible.
Okay. Am I audible now? Hello. Am I audible now?
Yeah, you're audible now.
Okay. So, before we leave for the day, any last message you would like to share with our viewers?
Yeah, definitely. Something that we all wait for impatiently. So I would like to conclude that since we have explored through this session about the inclusive setting of education, like awareness among teachers of mainstream schools, the status of children with special needs, and effective teaching in an inclusive classroom. So, for a successful implementation of inclusion in any education system, on my behalf, the mainstream schools should be equipped with resource rooms, allow the collaborative consultation, and adopt cooperative teaching. This is how I think we can definitely build ourselves into an inclusive environment, inclusive society, and inclusive mainstream school. I think our approach matters the most. And as the word itself says, inclusion, it begins with I. So if I think I can bring about the change, everybody else can bring about the change too. These were my concluding comments for
And
this
so,
session
and these
today.
are very wise words. I think that this may be the topic of our next
And
discussion
I would
that we
also
can
like to
have.
thank Mr. Sudhir and the GETI organization for giving me this opportunity and platform to share my views.
Thank you so much, Kanupriya. And I think that we can keep, this point as the next topic, that how much the mainstream schools are ready to accept the children with the special need. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Why not? This is going to be a challenge, and I think this is going to be a mind-boggling session. Yeah, amazing. Definitely.
All right. So thank you so much, Kanupriya. And with this note, we shall take a leave for the day, and have a great evening.
Yeah.
And thank you so much, everyone, for
Thank you
sparing your
so
time.
much. Have a great day. Thank you so much for the session.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.